3 months after the alien attack, the world looked completely different. Every news channel showed the same images over and over. Military bases buzzed with activity day and night. Countries that had been enemies for decades now worked together like old friends. The attack on Colorado had done something that no human leader had ever managed to do. It had united the entire planet under one goal. Jake Morrison stood in front of a group of soldiers from 12 different nations. His new uniform bore patches from America, Russia, China, Britain, and 8 other countries. The global defense coalition had formed faster than anyone thought possible. Old grudges were forgotten when faced with a threat from the stars. "Listen up," Jake told his international team. "The aliens think we're weak because we live on what they call a death world. They're about to learn that living on a death world makes you very hard to kill." His second in command was Carlos Martinez, a former Navy SEAL who had volunteered for the new program within hours of the attack. Next to Carlos stood Emma Watson, who had left the British SAS to join the fight against humanity's new enemies. The team included specialists from every major military force on Earth. Jake's unit was training with weapons that 3 months ago had been science fiction. Dr. Sam Harris had worked day and night to understand the alien technology left behind in Colorado. The energy weapons were actually simpler than human guns in many ways. The aliens relied on their computers to do most of the work, while humans had learned to adapt and improvise. Their weapons are precise, but they can't adjust quickly. Dr. Harris explained to the assembled soldiers, "Our weapons might be less powerful, but we can modify them in the field. We can think faster than their computers can calculate." At Peterson Air Force Base, Lisa Rodriguez had been promoted to head of the new Xenocommunications Division. Her job was to intercept and decode alien messages from space. What she had learned about their enemies was both encouraging and terrifying. "They're scared," Lisa reported to the Global Defense Council during their daily briefing. The intercepted communications show they're arguing among themselves about what to do with Earth. Some want to destroy us completely, while others think we might be useful. Slaves. The alien messages revealed that Earth was not their first target. The Galactic Council had conquered hundreds of worlds using the same tactics. They would arrive with superior technology, demonstrate their power, and wait for the local population to surrender. No species had ever fought back the way humans did. Captain Alex Turner now commanded the orbital defense platform that hadn't existed 4 months ago. The structure was built using a combination of human engineering and alien materials, recovered from the wreckage in Colorado. Construction crews had worked around the clock to build something the galaxy had never seen before. "The platform is operational," Turner reported to the Global Defense Council. "We've got weapons that can reach targets anywhere in the solar system. If they come back, we'll be ready." The platform wasn't just a weapon. It was a statement that humanity would never again be helpless against attacks from space. The construction had required cooperation between nations that had never trusted each other before. Russian engineers worked alongside American technicians while Chinese scientists shared data with European researchers. Dr. Nina Patel had joined Sam's research team after the attack. As one of the world's leading physicists, she brought a fresh perspective to understanding alien technology. What she discovered changed everyone's thinking about their enemies. "Their technology is actually behind ours in many areas," Dr. Patel explained to the research team. "They've been using the same basic designs for thousands of years. They never had to innovate because they never faced real opposition. The alien computers were powerful but inflexible. They could calculate millions of possibilities, but they couldn't adapt when faced with something completely new. Human technology was less advanced but far more adaptable. A human engineer could modify a weapon system in minutes, while alien computers needed hours to process new parameters." Jake's team was learning to use this advantage in their training exercises. They practiced fighting in conditions that would kill most alien species: underground tunnels filled with toxic gas, Arctic conditions with temperatures far below freezing, desert environments with radiation levels that would fry alien electronics. "We're not just training to fight aliens," Jake told his team. "We're training to fight them in places where they can't survive. Every environment on Earth that we consider normal is a death trap to them." Emma Watson had developed new tactics based on human military history. Where aliens expected orderly battle formations, humans used guerrilla warfare techniques perfected over centuries of conflict. Where aliens relied on overwhelming firepower, Humans used stealth and surprise. They don't understand warfare the way we do, Emma explained. To them, battle is about demonstrating superior technology. To us, battle is about winning at any cost. The training programs attracted volunteers from every nation on Earth. Former enemies worked side by side, learning to use alien weapons and human tactics together. Veterans of every conflict in recent history shared their knowledge, with younger soldiers who would face humanity's greatest challenge. Lisa's communication intercepts showed that the alien reaction to human resistance had spread panic throughout their empire. Species that had been conquered decades ago were beginning to ask questions about their alien rulers. The Galactic Council was facing something they had never experienced before: rebellion. "They're calling us the Void Spawn from the Death World," Lisa translated from the latest intercepts. "They've also started referring to us as the species that wars with its own star after they learned about our nuclear weapons." The alien fear was understandable. Most species in the galaxy had never developed nuclear weapons because they had never experienced the kind of warfare that Earth had seen. The concept of mutually assured destruction was completely foreign to civilizations that had been conquered. Before they could develop such terrible weapons, Dr. Claire Adams joined the Global Defense Coalition as humanity's first xenoanthropologist. Her job was to study captured alien equipment and try to understand how their society worked. What she discovered explained why they had underestimated humans so badly. "Most galactic species have never experienced true warfare," Dr. Adams reported. "Their conflicts are more like sports competitions with rules and referees. They have no concept of total war or fighting to the death." The aliens had conquered other worlds through intimidation rather than battle. They would arrive, demonstrate their superior technology, and wait for the local government to surrender. Most species gave up immediately rather than face destruction. Humans were the first to choose fighting over submission. As the months passed, Earth's defenses grew stronger every day. Factories that had once built cars and computers now produced energy weapons and force field generators. Scientists who had studied theoretical physics now worked on practical applications of alien technology. Soldiers who had trained for conventional warfare now prepared to fight among the stars. The aliens were still out there somewhere, watching and planning their next move. Intercepted communications suggested they were gathering a much larger fleet for their return to Earth. The Galactic Council had decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to develop further. Captain Turner looked out at the stars from his command center on the orbital platform. Somewhere in that vast darkness, alien ships were preparing for war. They thought they were facing the same weak species they had attacked 3 months ago. They were about to discover that attacking Earth had been the worst mistake in galactic history. The Deathworlders were no longer helpless, and they were very, very angry. The second alien fleet arrived on a Tuesday morning, when most of the world was drinking coffee and starting another day at work. Admiral Kate Sullivan was on duty at the orbital defense platform when her sensors detected the incoming ships. There were 50 of them this time, compared to the single vessel that had attacked Colorado 6 months earlier. "All stations, this is Admiral Sullivan," she broadcast to Earth's defense network. "We have multiple hostile contacts approaching Earth. All units prepare for combat." On the surface, Jake Morrison received the alert while his team was conducting training exercises in the Rocky Mountains. His international unit had grown to include soldiers from 23 countries, all of whom had volunteered to defend Earth against the alien threat. "This is it, people," Jake announced to his team. "Everything we've trained for comes down to the next few hours. Remember what we learned. They expect us to fight like civilized species. We're going to show them what Deathworlders can do." Carlos Martinez checked his energy rifle one final time. The weapon was a hybrid of human engineering and alien technology that Dr. Sam Harris had designed specifically for human physiology. It was lighter and more reliable than the original alien weapons, with modifications that allowed for rapid field repairs. Emma Watson activated her tactical display and studied the urban battlefield they had prepared over the past months. The aliens were heading for major population centers just like before, but this time, humanity was ready. Every city on Earth had been turned into a fortress using tactics learned from centuries of human warfare. The alien fleet commander Velkoth looked down at the blue planet with satisfaction. His force was 50 times larger than the previous expedition, and this time they had brought proper weapons of war. The primitive creatures below would have no choice but to surrender when faced with such overwhelming power. Begin orbital bombardment of their major population centers. Velkoth ordered his weapons officers. Once they see our strength, they will submit like all the others. The first alien energy beam struck Earth's atmosphere and met something the invaders had not expected. Admiral Sullivan's orbital defense platform fired back immediately, its weapons designed by human engineers who understood that the best defense was a strong offense. Target their command ships first, Sullivan ordered her weapons crews. Dr. Harris says their fleet coordination depends on centralized control. Cut off the head and the body dies. The space battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, where alien tactics relied on formation flying and coordinated attacks. Human strategy focused on chaos and unpredictability. Earth's defenders used tactics developed in centuries of naval warfare adapted for three-dimensional space combat. On the ground, Pete Walker led combat engineering teams that had spent months preparing for this day. Every major city had been equipped with hidden weapon emplacements, underground tunnels, and defensive positions that would make urban combat a nightmare for invading forces. They're landing troops in downtown Los Angeles, Pete reported over the tactical network, just like we expected. Funnel them into the kill zones. The alien ground troops that landed in Earth's cities found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered in their conquest of other worlds. Human defenders used buildings as weapons, turning shopping malls into mazes and subway systems into death traps. Jake's team engaged the aliens in street-to-street fighting that tested every lesson learned in human military history. The invaders had better armor and more powerful weapons, but they had never faced an enemy that treated every piece of terrain as a potential weapon. They're bunching up in the intersections, Emma observed through her tactical scope. They don't understand urban warfare. Take them out. The aliens fought like they were on a parade ground, maintaining neat formations and following predetermined attack patterns. Humans fought like the products of a death world, using every dirty trick and improvised weapon they could find. Dr. Harris had positioned himself at a forward command post where he could observe alien tactics firsthand. What he saw confirmed everything he had theorized about their weaknesses. The invaders were technologically superior, but tactically inflexible. Their combat computers can't adapt to our fighting style, Harris reported to the Global Defense Command. They're programmed for conventional warfare between civilized species. We're not fighting like civilized species. Lisa Rodriguez monitored alien communications from her command center and translated the growing panic in their transmissions. The invaders had expected another quick victory like their previous conquests. Instead, they were facing determined resistance that grew stronger with every passing hour. They're calling us monsters, Lisa reported with grim satisfaction. Their field commanders are requesting immediate reinforcement and orbital support. They're taking heavy casualties. The alien casualties were indeed heavy, but not from superior human weapons. Earth's defenders were winning through superior tactics, better knowledge of the terrain, and a willingness to take risks that horrified their enemies. Where other species would retreat when outgunned, humans advanced. Where civilized beings would surrender when surrounded, humans fought harder. Dr. Claire Adams had established a forward research post where she could study captured alien equipment and prisoners. What she learned about galactic civilization explained why humanity's enemies were so unprepared for real warfare. Most of their military experience comes from police actions against unarmed civilians, Dr. Adams reported. They've never fought against an enemy that shoots back effectively. Their entire military doctrine is based on intimidation, rather than actual combat. The battle for Earth's cities became a masterclass in human adaptability. When alien energy weapons proved effective against conventional cover, human engineers developed portable shield generators. When alien armor proved resistant to small arms fire, human chemists created new explosive compounds. Every alien advantage was met with human innovation. Captain Danny Foster led a squadron of hybrid human-alien fighters in support of the ground battle. The aircraft combined human piloting skills with recovered alien technology to create something that confused enemy targeting systems. Their fighters can't handle our flight patterns, Foster reported during a strafing run over New York. They expect predictable attack vectors. We're giving them chaos. The space battle continued to rage above Earth's atmosphere as Admiral Sullivan's platform traded fire with the alien fleet. Human tactics emphasized mobility and unpredictability, while alien strategy relied on overwhelming firepower and coordinated attacks. "They're breaking formation," Sullivan observed with satisfaction. "Their fleet coordination is falling apart. Continue targeting their command vessels." As the battle entered its 6th hour, the tide began to turn decisively in humanity's favor. The aliens had superior technology, but humans had superior determination, better tactics, and intimate knowledge of the battlefield. Most importantly, humans had learned to fight on a world that killed anything weak enough to give up. Velkoth stared at his tactical displays with growing horror. His forces were being systematically destroyed by creatures that should have surrendered hours ago. The casualty reports from the surface made no sense. How could primitive beings armed with inferior weapons inflict such devastating losses on galactic military forces? "Sir," his communications officer reported with fear in his voice, "we're receiving reports from the other invasion fleets. Earth is not the only world where the primitives are fighting back. The conquered species are using human tactics against our garrison forces." The rebellion that Lisa's intercepts had detected months earlier was now spreading across the galaxy. Species that had been enslaved for decades were learning from humanity's example. The Galactic Council's empire was facing its first real challenge in millennia. Jake's team had cleared downtown Denver of alien forces and was advancing toward their landing zone when the retreat order came. The surviving alien ships were lifting off from Earth's surface and fleeing toward open space, leaving behind thousands of dead soldiers and abandoned equipment. "Let them run," Jake told his exhausted team. "They came here expecting to find helpless victims. Instead, they found Deathworlders who know how to fight." The second battle for Earth was over, but the war had just begun. Humanity had proven that they could defend their home world, but the aliens would return with even larger forces. The next phase of the conflict would take the battle to the stars themselves. The UES Retribution moved through space like a predator stalking its prey. Captain Danny Foster stood on the bridge of humanity's first deep space warship, watching the stars shift patterns on his navigation display. The vessel was a hybrid creation that combined human engineering with alien technology in ways that no galactic civilization had ever attempted. "How long until we reach the staging area?" Foster asked his navigation officer. 6 hours at current speed, Lieutenant Kelly Park replied. Park had been a NASA engineer before the alien invasion changed everyone's career plans. Now she was plotting courses to distant star systems that humans had only dreamed about visiting. In the ship's tactical center, Jake Morrison studied intelligence reports from Earth's expanding spy network. The Global Defense Coalition had learned to intercept alien communications across dozens of star systems, revealing the true scope of their enemy's empire and the panic that humanity's resistance had caused. "They're calling emergency sessions of their Galactic Council," Jake reported to the mission briefing. 3 more worlds have declared independence from alien rule in the past month. Our tactics are spreading faster than they can contain them. Dr. Sam Harris had designed the Retribution specifically for deep space combat operations. The ship carried weapons that could adapt to any situation, along with manufacturing equipment that allowed the crew to build whatever they needed from raw materials. It was a concept that terrified alien military planners who relied on fixed supply lines. "We're not just carrying weapons," Harris explained to the crew. "We're carrying the ability to create new weapons, new tools and new solutions to whatever problems we encounter out there." Lisa Rodriguez commanded the ship's intelligence section from a communications center that could monitor alien transmissions across light years of space. Her team had grown from a single communications specialist to a network of linguists and cryptographers who could understand dozens of alien languages. "We're picking up increased chatter from the staging area near Proxima Centauri," Lisa reported. "They know we're coming, but they don't understand what we're capable of yet." The alien staging area was a massive military complex built around a captured asteroid. For centuries, it had served as a forward base for Galactic Council expeditions against primitive worlds. The facility had never been designed to withstand attack because no conquered species had ever possessed the technology to reach it. Commander Zethral stared at his long-range sensors with disbelief. The human ship approaching his base was unlike anything in galactic databases. It moved with the irregular patterns of a living thing, rather than the predictable courses of mechanical vessels. More disturbing, It was broadcasting messages in over 30 different alien languages. How did they learn our languages so quickly? Zethral demanded from his communications staff. It takes decades for most species to master even basic galactic standard. His chief linguist examined the human transmissions with growing alarm. Sir, they're not just speaking our languages. They're using them to communicate with rebel groups throughout the sector. They're coordinating resistance activities across dozens of worlds. Dr. Claire Adams had spent months studying captured alien prisoners and recovered documents to understand galactic civilization. What she discovered was a rigid hierarchy maintained through technological superiority and cultural stagnation. The Galactic Council had ruled for so long that they had forgotten how to adapt to new threats. Their entire system is based on preventing change, Adams explained during a briefing aboard the Retribution. They maintain control by keeping every species at the same technological level they had when first contacted. Innovation is discouraged or forbidden. The ship's crew represented everything the Galactic Council feared most. They were products of a world where innovation was necessary for survival, where adaptation meant the difference between life and death, and where cooperation between former enemies could create something stronger than the sum of its parts. Carlos Martinez led the ship's boarding teams, specialists trained for combat in alien environments. His Marines wore powered armor that could operate in vacuum, toxic atmospheres, and gravitational fields that would crush unprotected humans. They were prepared for conditions that would kill most galactic species. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth anymore, Carlos told his team. We're fighting for every species that wants to be free from Council control. Every successful mission shows other worlds that resistance is possible. Retribution approached the alien staging area using stealth technology that Dr. Harris had developed by combining human submarine tactics with alien sensor dampening systems. The ship moved through space like a ghost, invisible to detection systems designed to track conventional spacecraft. Emma Watson commanded the ship's special operations teams, soldiers trained in tactics that no galactic military had ever encountered. They practiced boarding actions in zero gravity, sabotage operations in hostile environments, and guerrilla warfare techniques adapted for space combat. We're going to hit them where they least expect it, Emma briefed her teams. Their security is designed to keep conquered species from escaping, not to prevent attacks from outside. They've never needed to defend against equals. The first sign of humanity's arrival was not weapons fire or radio transmissions. It was the sudden appearance of human soldiers inside the staging area's most secure facilities, having infiltrated through maintenance shafts and cargo bays that alien security had never bothered to monitor properly. Pete Walker led engineering teams that turned the aliens' own infrastructure against them. Human combat engineers had learned to see every system as a potential weapon, every corridor as a possible trap, and every power source as an explosive waiting to be triggered. Their base design assumes cooperative occupants, Pete reported as his team sabotaged critical systems. They never planned for hostile infiltration. We're turning their own technology into weapons against them. The battle for the staging area lasted 12 hours and demonstrated every advantage that humanity had developed in their war against galactic civilization. Where aliens expected frontal assaults, humans used stealth and infiltration. Where aliens planned for conventional tactics, humans employed asymmetric warfare. Foster coordinated the space battle from the Retribution's bridge, while his boarding team secured the alien facility. The ship's weapon systems had been designed for maximum flexibility, allowing them to engage targets at ranges and attack angles that confused alien defensive systems. Their fleet coordination is breaking down, Foster observed as alien ships collided with each other in their haste to respond to human attacks. They're not used to fighting an enemy that attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. Dr. Harris had equipped the boarding teams with adaptive technology that could interface with alien systems in real time. Human engineers could reprogram alien computers, redirect alien weapons, and turn alien defenses against their operators with a speed that horrified galactic military observers. We're not just capturing their equipment, Harris reported with satisfaction. We're making it work better than it ever did under alien control. The staging area's alien commander surrendered when human forces reached his command center, but not before his communications officer had transmitted a desperate message to Galactic Council headquarters. The message contained tactical recordings of human combat methods that would change galactic military thinking forever. "They don't fight like civilized beings," the transmission reported. "They use everything as a weapon. They turn our own systems against us. They adapt faster than our computers can calculate countermeasures." Jake interrogated captured alien officers and learned that humanity's reputation had already spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had been conquered centuries ago were studying human tactics and applying them to their own resistance movements. The Galactic Council was facing rebellions on dozens of worlds simultaneously. "They're calling us the Catalyst species," Jake reported to Earth via quantum communication link. "Our resistance has inspired revolutions across the galaxy. The Council's empire is starting to collapse." Lisa's communication teams had established contact with rebel groups on 17 different worlds during the battle. Each group was using modified versions of human tactics adapted to their local conditions and alien physiologies. The revolution was spreading faster than the Galactic Council could respond. "We're not just winning battles," Lisa observed. "We're teaching the galaxy how to be free." The Retribution departed the captured staging area loaded with alien technology, tactical intelligence, and most importantly, a group of alien refugees who had volunteered to help humanity understand galactic civilization from the inside. The ship had struck a blow against alien authority that would echo across the stars. As Foster plotted a course back to Earth, he reflected on how much had changed since the first alien attack on Colorado. Humanity had gone from helpless victims to galactic revolutionaries in less than 2 years. The Deathworlders were no longer fighting just for survival. They were fighting for the freedom of an entire galaxy. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in a chamber that had not seen such tension in over 1,000 years. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in the massive hall, while holographic displays showed the spreading chaos across their empire. Rebellions burned on 43 worlds and more were joining the uprising every day. Council Elder Quindar stood at the central podium with his ceremonial robes rustling in the artificial breeze. His forearms gestured at the tactical displays showing human ship movements throughout the galaxy. "The Death World primitives have become a threat to galactic civilization itself," he announced to the assembly. Junior Council member Velnari watched the proceedings with growing unease. She had studied the human transmissions and intercepted their communications with rebel groups. Unlike her colleagues, she was beginning to understand that humanity might be exactly what the galaxy needed. On Earth, President Maria Santos prepared for humanity's first interstellar diplomatic mission. The Global Defense Coalition had chosen her to represent their species at peace negotiations that would determine the future of galactic civilization. She would carry the hopes of not just humanity, but dozens of species fighting for their freedom. "Remember that we're not just negotiating for Earth," Santos told her diplomatic team during their final briefing. "We're negotiating for every species that wants the right to determine their own future." Jake Morrison stood beside the president as her military advisor, his uniform now bearing insignia from the Free Species Alliance that had formed around humanity's leadership. The former construction worker had become a general in an interstellar war, but he still thought of himself as a man who just wanted to build things instead of destroying them. Lisa Rodriguez commanded the diplomatic mission's communication systems from the UES Harmony, a ship designed specifically for peace rather than war. Her translation computers could now handle over 200 alien languages, and her intercept systems monitored Galactic Council discussions in real time. "The Council is split into 3 factions," Lisa reported to President Santos. "The hardliners want to destroy Earth completely. The moderates want to negotiate from a position of strength. The progressives think we might be right about the need for change." Dr. Sam Harris had spent months preparing technology demonstrations that would show the galaxy what humanity could offer beyond military prowess. His teams had developed medical treatments, agricultural improvements, and manufacturing techniques that could benefit every species in known space. "We're not just showing them our weapons," Harris explained to the diplomatic team. "We're showing them what's possible when species are free to innovate and adapt." The Peace Conference was held on a neutral space station that had been hastily constructed in the empty space between star systems. The location was symbolic of the new reality facing galactic civilization, a place that belonged to no single species but could serve the needs of all. Captain Danny Foster commanded the human fleet that escorted the diplomatic mission, but his ships carried scientists and engineers instead of Marines. The message was clear. Humanity preferred to build rather than destroy, but they were prepared for either option. Dr. Claire Adams had become humanity's leading expert on galactic anthropology through her studies of alien cultures and societies. She understood that the Council's rigid hierarchy was based on fear rather than strength, and that their empire was already crumbling from within. They've maintained control for so long that they've forgotten how to adapt, Adams briefed the diplomatic team. The rebellions we've inspired are just symptoms of a deeper problem. Their entire system is breaking down. The first formal session of the peace conference brought together species that had been enemies, slaves, and masters for centuries. Humans sat across from their former attackers while representatives of rebel worlds demanded rights that had been denied for generations. Elder Quindar opened the negotiations with a demand for humanity's immediate surrender and the cessation of all rebel activities. His speech followed diplomatic protocols that had been established millennia ago, when the Council's word was law throughout the galaxy. President Santos listened politely to the aliens' demands before delivering humanity's response. "We didn't start this war," she said simply. "You attacked our world without provocation and killed our people without mercy. We defended ourselves and discovered that your empire was built on the oppression of others." The human president's words caused chaos in the Council delegation. No primitive species had ever spoken to galactic authority with such directness. Felnari found herself admiring the human leader's courage, while her colleagues sputtered with outrage. Jake presented evidence of Galactic Council atrocities collected from dozens of worlds during humanity's expanding intelligence operations. The documentation showed systematic oppression, forced technological stagnation, and cultural genocide practiced across the galaxy for thousands of years. "You call us primitives," Jake said to the Council representatives, "but we've never enslaved entire civilizations or forbidden them to grow and develop. Your idea of civilization is based on preventing others from becoming civilized." Dr. Harris demonstrated human innovations that had been shared freely with rebel worlds, showing medical treatments that had saved millions of lives and agricultural techniques that had ended famines. The technology was offered without patents, licensing fees, or restrictions. "This is what happens when species are free to innovate," Harris explained. "In 2 years, we've developed solutions to problems that have existed for centuries under Council rule." Lisa presented intercepted communications, showing the true extent of galactic unrest. The rebellions were not limited to a few discontented worlds. They spanned the entire known galaxy and included species at every level of technological development. "Your empire is already over," Lisa told the shocked Council delegation. "The question now is whether its collapse will be violent or peaceful." The negotiations continued. For weeks, as representatives from rebel worlds presented their own demands for freedom and self-determination, species that had been silent for centuries found their voices and demanded the right to control their own destinies. Emma Watson trained the first multi-species special operations unit during breaks in the negotiations. Soldiers from a dozen different worlds learned human tactics adapted to their unique physiologies and environments. The unit would become the model for the Free Species Alliance military. Carlos Martinez worked with alien engineers to develop new technologies that combined the best innovations from multiple species. The collaborative projects produced advances that no single civilization could have achieved alone. Pete Walker supervised the construction of infrastructure that would support the new galactic government. Unlike the Council's centralized hierarchy, the Free Species Alliance was designed as a cooperative network where each member world retained sovereignty while contributing to mutual defense and development. Elder Quindar made one final attempt to preserve Council authority by threatening orbital bombardment of rebel worlds. His speech was interrupted by Captain Foster's calm announcement that human fleets were already protecting every world in the rebellion. "Your ships are outnumbered 10-1, Foster reported from the Harmony's bridge. "Your technology is obsolete. Your tactics are predictable. If you want a war, we'll give you one, but you won't like how it ends." The final collapse of Galactic Council authority came not from military defeat, but from mass defection. Council member after member announced their world's withdrawal from the Empire, until only a handful of species remained loyal to the old system. Velnari was among the first to join the Free Species Alliance, bringing with her detailed knowledge of Council operations and the locations of political prisoners held throughout the galaxy. Her defection encouraged dozens of other council members to abandon the failing regime. President Santos announced the formation of the Free Species Alliance during a ceremony broadcast to every world in known space. The new organization would be based on principles that were revolutionary for galactic civilization, self-determination, technological freedom, and cooperative defense. "We're not seeking to replace one empire with another," Santos declared. "We're creating a system where every species can grow and develop according to their own nature, while cooperating with others for mutual benefit." Jake was promoted to General of Alliance Forces, commanding military units that included species from across the galaxy. His first order was to establish academies where alien soldiers could learn human tactics, while humans learned from alien innovations. 5 years after the alien attack on Colorado, the galaxy was unrecognizable. Where once there had been stagnation enforced by authoritarian rule, now there was rapid development and cultural exchange. Where once there had been fear and oppression, now there was cooperation between species that had been enemies for millennia. The Free Species Alliance had grown to include over 300 worlds, each contributing their unique strengths to the common good. Human tactical doctrine had been adopted and adapted by dozens of species, while human technology had been improved by alien innovations. Dr. Harris established the Galactic Technology Exchange, where innovations were shared freely between member worlds. The alien ship moved through space like a silver needle cutting through black cloth. Inside the research vessel Serenity's Edge, scientist Zektar studied the small blue planet on his screen. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he read the data flowing across his console. The planet looked dangerous with its violent storms and deadly radiation from its star. "Another death world," Zektar said to his assistant. "The creatures living there must be very weak to survive in such terrible conditions." His assistant nodded with all 6 of his heads. "The scans show they fight each other constantly. They even split their own atoms to make weapons. Such a primitive and violent species." Zektar marked Earth as a low-priority target in his report. The Galactic Council would be pleased to know about another weak species they could easily control. Far below on Earth, Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his face as he climbed down from the construction crane. The former Marine had been building bridges in Colorado for 3 years since leaving the military. The pay was good and the work kept his hands busy. His radio crackled with news about strange lights in the sky, but Jake paid no attention. People always claimed to see weird things in the mountains. At Peterson Air Force Base, Lisa Rodriguez sat in front of banks of computers and radio equipment. As the base's communication specialist, she monitored signals from around the world. Today, something was different. Her equipment kept picking up signals that did not match any human technology. The patterns were too complex and the frequencies were all wrong. "Colonel Murphy," Lisa called to her commanding officer. "I'm getting some strange transmissions. They don't match anything in our database." Colonel Murphy walked over and looked at Lisa's screens. The signals formed patterns that seemed almost like language, but unlike anything on Earth. "Keep monitoring and record everything," he ordered. This could be important. High above in orbit, Zektar made his decision. The Council had ordered him to make contact with promising species. This planet's inhabitants looked primitive enough to be easily impressed by superior technology. A simple show of force would make them submit quickly. The alien ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star. People across Colorado stopped what they were doing to stare at the sky. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, with its smooth metal surface reflecting sunlight like a mirror. Jake was loading supplies into his truck when the ship appeared overhead. The massive vessel hovered silently above the shopping center, where dozens of families were going about their daily business. Children pointed at the sky while their parents pulled out phones to take pictures. Zektar activated his ship's communication system and sent a message in what he thought was the local language. His computers had analyzed human broadcasts and created a translation program. What he intended as a peaceful greeting came out as a series of harsh commands demanding immediate surrender. The local police arrived within minutes. They had no idea what they were dealing with, but they knew their job was to protect the people below. Officers drew their weapons and took defensive positions behind their vehicles. They shouted for the crowd to move away from the area. From his ship, Zektar watched the humans point weapons at him. In his experience, only dangerous species showed aggression when faced with superior technology. Most civilized beings would bow down and offer gifts. These creatures were clearly more violent than his scans had indicated. "They're threatening us," Zektar told his crew. "Activate defensive systems." The ship's weapons powered up with a low humming sound that made the air vibrate. Energy beams lanced down from the vessel, striking the ground near the police cars. The beams were intended as warning shots, but the aliens had badly miscalculated human construction materials. The energy struck a gas station and exploded in a ball of orange fire. Jake dropped his supplies and ran toward the chaos. His marine training kicked in as he began organizing the evacuation. "Everyone move away from the buildings," he shouted. "Stay low and head for open ground." At the airbase, Lisa's equipment went crazy with incoming signals. The alien transmissions had changed from curious probes to what sounded like battle commands. She patched into emergency frequencies and began coordinating with local authorities. "All units, we have a hostile contact over the shopping district," Lisa broadcast. "Unknown aircraft is firing energy weapons at civilian targets." More energy beams struck the shopping center. Windows shattered and cars burst into flames. The aliens were trying to demonstrate their power, but they only succeeded in making humans angry. Parents grabbed their children and ran while others helped the wounded. No one begged for mercy or offered surrender. Jake found himself leading a group of civilians to safety when he saw a little girl crying next to an overturned car. Without thinking, he ran back into the danger zone and scooped her up. An energy beam missed him by inches, melting the concrete where he had been standing. Captain Alex Turner received the emergency call at NORAD headquarters buried deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. As commander of North American Air Defense, he had prepared for many threats, but never alien invasion. Turner immediately ordered all available aircraft to scramble toward Colorado. "Shoot it down," Turner commanded. "I don't care if it's from Mars or Jupiter. It's firing on American civilians." F-22. Raptor fighters screamed across the sky toward the alien ship. Their missiles struck the vessel's shields in bursts of light and energy. The ship shuddered but remained in the air. However, the attack surprised Zektar, who had expected the primitives to flee in terror. Dr. Sam Harris was working in his laboratory at the nearby university when the attack began. As one of the world's leading experts in advanced materials and energy systems, Sam immediately recognized that he was seeing technology far beyond human capabilities. While others ran for safety, Sam began taking measurements and recordings of everything he could observe. The battle lasted only 20 minutes, but it changed everything. The alien ship finally retreated to orbit after realizing that humans would not submit easily. Zektar looked at his damage reports with confusion. No primitive species had ever fought back against Galactic Council forces. These creatures were definitely more dangerous than they appeared. On the ground, Jake helped coordinate rescue efforts while Lisa worked to track the alien ship's location. Captain Turner prepared reports for the Pentagon, while Dr. Harris studied the energy residue left behind by alien weapons. The attack had killed 37 people and wounded over 100 more. As night fell over Colorado, emergency crews worked to clear the wreckage. The world had changed forever in those 20 minutes. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and their new neighbors had just declared war. The aliens thought they were dealing with a weak species from a death world. They were about to learn how wrong they were.